All right, we are back here, Sky Guys, as you just heard our names being introduction here, talking Clone Wars Season 1 in the books. We watched all 22 episodes of the past month. Joining me today, first up, our Star Wars, one of our big Star Wars guys, Pete Consadori. Pete, how are you?
Oh, doing fantastic. We got through season one. I think that's an accomplishment in itself. I think we all can pat ourselves in the back that we got through that train wreck for the first half of the season. It got better toward the end. We'll talk about it. But yeah, thanks for having me.
Yeah, it did get a lot better towards the end. There are points in the middle there, especially their arcs I'll get to. I'm like, why am I watching this? Why am I putting myself through this? Once I got to like, okay, I see the potential here.
Yeah.
All right. Also with us again, the great Nick Fraietta is here. Nick coming along for the ride as sort of I want to say of the trio here, I feel like he's Obi-Wan because he's seen all this before. So Nick, how are you?
Doing great. I'm really excited to get further into the show. This is like a intro, kind of like a get to know the characters, kind of get to understand what this show is going to be about. So there's not much going on, and I think we're getting past that, and we're finally getting into the good stuff.
Yeah, we are getting to the good stuff. And season number 1 is in the books, and we're gonna put the spoiler warning. This is a show that the season aired in 2008 and 2009. I'm still gonna put it up there anyway in case any of you guys are going on your own rewatches. You're a little behind us. All right, you've been warned. If you do not want to get spoiled on Clone Wars season 1, probably a little bit of season 2 because we'll tease that at the end. We'll get out, go watch the season, come back, and then listen to us have this conversation. But right now, I got to say, season 1, Nick, kind of a mixed bag.
Yeah, the first couple episodes are really bad. They're rough. It's basically a continuation in the movie, and we talked about that before. We didn't like it. It's boring. It's just. We talked about the animation, the acting, everything. It continues with that. But as you get a little further into the show, you start getting into like what this show is going to be about. And not to say that it's bad, it's not great, but it's a little bit better. You start learning a little bit about how the war is really, at this point in the war, it's just trying to gain support from the different systems. And you have your separatists and your republic going into, let's say, the same planet, same system, and they're just trying to get the support from that planet. And it's just back and forth and like whose trust are you earning and stuff like that. And that's that's all we've got in the first part of the season.
Yeah, I think that's a great point. I think Pete, I feel like it's sum the season up pretty much in broad strokes as this. Like, okay, here's random battle X. Sometimes it's General Grievous the bad guy. Sometimes it's Asajj Ventress. Sometimes it's random command droids. And then Jedi have to come in and save the day. I feel like that's pretty much about the thread of the entire season, except for the finale.
Oh, 100%. I mean, I don't know if you guys are into board games. When I'm watching this, I feel like I'm playing Risk. I feel like it's just like, I'm just going to attack over here. Let's see what happens. Oh, we're just going to attack over here, see what happens. And it makes more sense, obviously, in the game of Risk in this actual show. But that's the feel I got. It was like, okay, we're just like Nick was saying, you have these two opposing forces trying to gain the support of common areas, right? I find it hysterical that in this huge universe, they keep matching up like so much. Obviously, you need to do that to actually have a interesting season, because if they're not matching up and it's just back and forth of them just gaining territories, it's not that fun. But yeah, you pretty literally summed it up. You're just seeing a bunch of random things happen. But I believe that this is one of those seasons that's necessary. As much as we probably don't like the first couple episodes and we're getting an introduction like Nick was saying, it's probably so necessary to understand this now, so that when we get into the later seasons, and Nick can probably confirm this, it just makes it that much better. It makes the buildup that much more realistic and probably heightens it in a way.
Yeah, I confirm 100%. You need to get this out of the way so you understand. And I think that's something that this show does so well, even in episodes that aren't good. Like in the first and second episode, they're not good, but they give you an understanding of characters, especially from the prequel series. I can say this. I don't know if you guys feel the same. I'm going to pretend I hadn't seen season 2 to 7 and I've only seen season 1. At this point, I like Anakin Skywalker twice as much as a character as I did from the movies already. And it only goes uphill from there. And these Jedi masters that we see in the movie for like a split second, they're just sitting in the Jedi Council. We know nothing about them. We're learning about them a little bit. We're learning about what kind of people they are. And that's really, now I don't like this season overall, but if I had to pick what makes this season great, I think it's that. We're starting to learn a little bit about these characters that in the movies were completely brushed over.
Yeah, I think that's a good point. In terms of like seeing some of these Jedi pop up, we have Kit Fisto pop up for episodes. Ayla Secura gets an episode. I think it works well when you sort of have them be on the mission with Anakin and Ahsoka, who we know from the movie and from the franchise. It's okay. But for me, episodes where we're kind of just getting them on their own, like the episode where Kit Fisto and his Padawan are tracking the Separatists, I feel like those are the rough ones because I'm like, I have personally no investment in these characters yet, so I'm not getting emotionally invested in the Padawan dying in episode 10, for instance.
I think you got to look at it in the opposite state, though. I agree with you. You're not getting emotionally invested in that at all. Who cares about Kit Fisto? But when you see these episodes and you learn a little more about Kit Fisto, when you watch Revenge of the Sith and you see him die, it means a little bit more to you. A little bit, because you've learned a little bit about him. And when you start seeing him more and more and more in the show, when we do eventually, I recommend after we finish Clone Wars to go back and watch Revenge of the Sith. It's going to hit you that much harder.
Yeah, and Pete, one thing I also think that was bothering me through the run of the season was like, obviously, like the problem is like with the clones themselves. I feel like they're trying so hard to give some of these guys personalities, but again, it's the problem baked in with the clones is like they all look the same. I get they can maybe give a different haircut, maybe one gets a tattoo or something like that, but it's hard for me to like sort of tell like, wait, who am I caring about? Like, who's Rex again? Who are these other guys? It's hard for me to sort of follow all these guys.
Oh, it's very confusing. It's very hard to follow, but I have to say they do an excellent job. I think that it's not so much that they're trying to give them personalities. I feel like the characters themselves are trying to give themselves personalities. Like, hey, I'm a clone, but I'm my own person. This is how I act. I'm the tough guy. I'm the this. So it's very hard to actually follow it, right? Because they're all clones. They're all pretty much wearing the same armor unless they have a different rank in command. But I kind of got the hint of the characters are trying their hardest to be different because they know they're clones. They understand that, everyone's the same looking, sounding. So I kind of got that vibe. It's not like smacked in your face. It's not like, hey, this is what we're doing. But I kind of got that vibe that these characters want to be their own person. And I think it shows the awkwardness a little bit too.
Yeah, Nick, what do you think about the whole thing with the clones here? What do you think of them trying to give the personalities, saying, okay, like I have this little thing that makes me unique as opposed to the other guys in my squadron? What do you think about that?
I think the main reason they're doing it, I mean, yeah, I agree. It's hard to tell them apart because they look the same. Rex and Cody and Fives are like your big Echo and like the big clones. But if you threw them all in the same frame, I can't tell them apart. I have no idea. But I think the reason they're doing this and like showing the clones this much is because they're trying to show that in the second episode, Plo Klun, he's a Jedi Master. He's weird looking face. I don't know how to explain it. If you can call up a picture at this point in the live stream,
he's got a bunch
Plo Klun. He dies in Revenge of the Sith driving or piloting a ship. So you'll know him when you see him. But he's on a mission with clones, and the clone says like why do you care about us? We're meant to be expendable. And he says, not to me. And that's like a big line in the series. And people say that's a huge line because it shows that the whole point of what you're saying, like why they're trying to give them personality, this and that, it's because they're trying to prove that something in the movies failed. And that is that clones are far superior to droids because they have a mind of their own. They can think on their own, and the droids can't do that. And the movies didn't do a good enough job of showing us that. They were all the same. There was no specific clone. The only clone in the movie that you actually, in any of the movies that you knew of at all, was Cody.
Yeah,
because he
because Obi-Wan.
He tried to kill Obi-Wan, and he's like, thank you for his lightsaber, that whole thing. So they're trying to show like these aren't just other droids that are actually people. They're much better. They think individually, and that's why the Republic is, you think, going to win the war.
Yeah, and I want to touch real quick before we dive into more specifics. The episode 5. The rookies episode where it's just only the clones trying to hold off an attack here. I do think I watched it at first. I'm like, this is interesting. And then I'm like, I have a hard time. I'm not emotionally invested in these rookies, and they all most end up dying in the episode. But Pete, what did you think about episode 5 of the rookies when we had just the clone squadron trying to deal with something?
I actually thought it was a little refreshing, right? Every single episode, the Jedi come and save the day in some sort of way. Not to say that the clones don't have a bigger part in those episodes where the Jedi Masters or the Jedi Knights are in. It was a little refreshing to see that the clones can kind of take care of themselves a little bit. Granted, they did lose a lot, and there's only a couple people left at the end of that episode, spoiler alert. But the whole point of that episode to me is to almost kind of like piggyback on what Nick is saying. they're far superior than these droids, these even separatist kind of like, figureheads a little bit, right? They're always thinking one step ahead. And the figureheads are like, well, we know them like a book. They don't. I think the figureheads of the separatist movement also think that these clones are just expendable and they just follow orders and that's the end of it. So I think it humanizes them a little bit more. And it kind of shows too that they can handle themselves. They don't need a Jedi master every single time. Yeah, it definitely helps, but they can hold their own.
Yeah. I think one other thing I also liked from the season in general, I think the humor with the droids was great. I just thought it was so fun how they made these droids like complete morons and gave them some like weird personalities and made them look like schmucks all the time. And Nick, I felt myself constantly laughing how stupid the droids were throughout the season.
I think the droids are some of the best like humor there is in all of Star Wars. Not only in this show, but there's a little bit, spoiler alert, there's an episode or two, maybe a full arc in Rebels where there's still some droids from the war that are in, and they're just as funny there too. They're funny characters. Like, if I remember correctly, they were a little funny in the movies. That they had like one or two lines, that like one or two like things that were funny. But like this is, they were kind of side characters in the movies, and they're more involved in the story in this show. So we're gonna see a lot more of them.
Yeah, P. I also love that the droids just like, especially some of them like get like sassy at some point, especially when like Grievous gives an order and they're like, we don't think he knows what he's doing, but we're gonna have fun behind his back, and they're getting themselves blown to bits anyway.
The sarcasm that come out of these droids are hysterical. I think
there was sorry to cut you off. There was one instance I can remember when you said that with General Grievous that they said something very similar in the movies when they in episode 3 in the opening scene when they caught Anakin and Obi-Wan and then they brought them to Grievous. The droid said, "Here are their lightsabers," and he said like that wasn't much of a rescue, and the droid goes, "You're welcome." And like that's kind of similar to like what you'd see in the show. Like,
yeah,
I just thought of that. That was in the movie as well.
Yeah, absolutely. It's that sarcasm, right? I think it's so funny. You think about these droids and robots not having emotions, but for some reason they are the most sarcastic things in this show, and even in the movie a little bit, just from that scene that you pointed out, Nick. So I think it's really funny. I think the droids are great, and I really hope that this continues throughout the season because I was chuckling the whole time. I mean, Ahsoka may have like little jabs, Anakin may have little jabs that like get me like to smile maybe once, but the droids really are my comic relief in this show.
And to be clear, when I say the movie, I mean episode 3, not the Clone Wars movie.
Yeah, or episode 1. Even that, man, they weren't that they weren't funny in 1 either.
They were a little involved in one. They were a little more involved in 1 than they were in. But they were in all of them. You think about it. Like if you remember in 2, 3PO's head was on one of the droids, and one of the droids' head was on 3PO, and he's like, "My legs don't work." Like it's kind of funny,
Yeah, that's true. And let's go into some specific episodes of the season, special arc, because like most of it was either self-contained or was like, here's an episode, and we continue in the next part. Sometimes you had a 3-part arc. I think, Nick, I'll go to you first. What was your favorite episode / arc of the season?
My favorite episode was the last episode. I think we can all agree that one was like. I think when you finish that episode, we're kind of all sitting there. I'm sure I can speak for you guys when I say this. You're kind of like, okay, I can see what some of the hype is about in the show. Like, that's pretty cool. Like I believe, correct me if I'm wrong. That's the first time you're introduced to Cad Bane, right?
Yes, that's his first time.
He's a badass. He's really cool. He's a cool character. Like he's someone. A lot of these cartoon characters, you see them at first, and you're like, I don't know about this guy. Like for Jabba's uncle, that was we talked about him before. But when I saw Cad Bane, I'm like, this guy's cool.
Yeah,
like this guy's really cool. Like and that's my favorite episode. But in terms of like, I don't want to say I'm not going to say a favorite arc. What I'm going to say about my second favorite episode is when Padme and 3PO and Jar Jar go to this planet to gain the support from them over the separatists. And I like that because that's the first time you see an outsider's opinion on the war, when he's kind of like, well, they offered me food and resources to capture you. So like, what I'm saying? It's not just about like good guys and bad guys. It's like, if you're this planet and they're like, well, they offered me food, you're not going to say no. And it just gives a whole different perspective into Star Wars where you can see like the common person instead of like following the high ups like Yoda and Anakin and all those people the whole time. You're following just a random guy, and he's like, I need food for my people, and it brings it down to like a realistic level at some point. And I also think and I may get murdered for saying this, but I think Jar Jar Binks is funny now. I think he was great in the show.
Jar Jar has some good episodes. I mean, that was the episode where Jar Jar is basically they're trying to fool the battle droids, think he's a Jedi. That's actually a very funny episode.
Yeah, and he's calling 3PO. What was it? 3SO?
3SO.
Yeah, I thought that was great.
Yeah, Pete, what about you? What was your favorite episode arc of the year?
So I really like the arc, or I like the last episode. I think, like Nick said, we can all agree that really kind of starts to make the season or make the show take off from this, like, oh wow, this really like cool characters coming in, has no problem going into the Senate and just, hey, I'm going to take a hostage and you're going to give me what I want, and that's the end of it, right? It's very, very cool character. I think my favorite arc, or maybe change in like pace for the season, is the episode, and I can't remember the episode name, and I apologize for the number, when they had a traitor, right? The clones had a traitor. They were leaking information to the Separatists, and they knew every single move. I really liked that, because then it started to get like, oh, there's something going on within the clones. Like, it's not just good versus evil. It's well, the evil has infiltrated the clones and the good. So, I think that was my favorite change. To also piggyback on what Nick is saying, there was one episode, it might be the same episode that you're talking about, Nick, and I apologize if I'm keep going back and forth, where Padme goes and gets captured by someone she's calling uncle, right?
I believe that's the same one.
Same episode. So that almost also shows, like, it doesn't even matter if there's that connection between the characters. They are so desperate for food or supplies or support that they will go against their own, in a way. Granted, it turns around toward the end, but go against their own ally, their own family, quote unquote, to get what they need.
Yeah, I looked up the episode, P. The one you're talking about, the traitors, episode 16, The Hidden Enemy.
Yes, yes.
Yeah, that one was fun. I think for me, my personal favorites, obviously, I'm with you guys to make it 3 for 3 on the finale. Finale shows you like where this show can go, and like we've been sort of coasting about like a 3 or 4 most of this. That was like at 7 or 8. You're like, oh, okay, I can see why people love this so much. I think the Ryloth arc, the 3 episodes right before, I think are very interesting, because you had the Anakin Ahsoka episode beginning where Ahsoka makes a mistake. Anakin's teaching her, like, I trust you, make the risk. Then we get the ground attack with Obi-Wan, and the clones like meet the Twi'lek child, and that was fun. And there was Mace Windu's attack on the Capitol, like the 3 different phases of the one attack. I think that was a pretty cool way to highlight different characters in the show.
No, definitely.
I agree. I definitely agree. And going back to the episode you were talking about, Ryloth, the character in that show, in that episode rather, what's his name? Syndulla is his last name. The general, I believe, his first name is Cham. I believe Cam, perhaps.
Yep,
probably Cham. Knowing Star Wars, he's a very important character. I know he's only showed up once, but I want you guys to like keep an eye on him and remember his name. His daughter, her name is Hera. She's one of the main characters in Rebels.
Yeah, it is Cham Syndulla. I did look it up.
Yeah, so his daughter is one of the main characters in Rebels. Her name is Hera Syndulla, and if you actually listen closely, if you're ever watching Rogue One, at the end of Rogue One, towards the end, not the way end, they're at the Rebel base preparing for their attack on Scarif, and you hear in the background, General Syndulla, and it's her. So it's kind of interesting how they like bring that in, because she's part of the Rebel. You'll see when we get there, but I think that's interesting, because like he's a pretty big character, and they only showed him once so far, but we'll get a lot more of him.
Yeah. Also, one episode of really Mace Windu, which I thought was pretty interesting. I mean, I know, like, I thought this would be a show where you get more of him. He only really pops up like as a main presence in that second to last episode. I mean, he's on the view screen a couple of times, but like, you don't really see much of him other than that.
I have to say, I agree with you, and I think I've said this before. I may have even said this before on this podcast, but Mace Windu is.
Yeah, it looks like Nick froze for a second there on the Zoom stream. So, Pete, what do you think about Mace Windu?
Yeah, Mace Windu, and I hope I'm not cutting him off because he might still be talking. He doesn't know if he's frozen or not. But I think Mace Windu had the same kind of like capacity as he did in the movies, right? He's just this figurehead character that's talking a lot. You know of him, and then towards the end of the prequels, that's when you see him like in action, right? I could be wrong. Could have been action in other maybe in episode 2 as well. But I feel like he's one of those characters that like, hey, don't underestimate me just because I'm calm and you just see me as a figurehead. That doesn't mean that I can't fight. And I think that's where we get that impression as well in the show.
Yeah, I did miss seeing him a lot in this show, but like Mace Windu is it feel like to me, he's a big sort of character. Like I was hoping to get more of him. I know you're not gonna get Samuel L. Jackson doing the voice on the Clone Wars. You can get a good sound alike. I mean, we saw Obi-Wan had his own sound alike that's turned out to be pretty well. And I mean, that guy did a good job capturing Obi-Wan does. I feel like I want to see more Mace Windu going forward.
No, I agree. I think he should be in it much more going forward. I think that we can benefit from seeing him a lot in the series. I think just like Nick was saying prior to, this.
Yeah, now we've lost Pete for a moment. Yeah, so you've cut out for a second. You want to just
cut out? No. All right. So I was saying Mace Windu, just like Nick was saying before all this story arc talk. We're learning a lot about different characters that we didn't really learn about in the episodes, and I think it would be great if Mace Windu was in there much more, so we can learn more about him.
Yeah, Nick, you got off. So we want to pick up your point on Mace.
Yeah, I got cut off, but I was saying that you're growing up. I always thought about Mace Windu and the purple lightsaber, and how after Yoda, he was second in command. It was Yoda, then Mace, and then like Anakin and Obi-Wan and whatnot. You know what I mean? Yeah. And I'm thinking now, after watching these movies again and the show again, but especially the movies, he's barely in episode 1. He's in like one scene. In episode 2, you don't see him at all until the final scene. And then he's in 3, just in pretty much only in that one scene where he fights with the Emperor there. And I'm like, I grew up always thinking he was like this main character. You barely get to know the guy.
Yeah.
You really do. You really barely get to know Mace Windu. And I think it's like a shame. And I want to see more of him in the show. I really want to see a lot more of him in the show.
Yeah, I think for sure. Let's move on from Mace. Let's go to the other direction here. So I think we're gonna have some meat on the bone here in terms of the bad episodes of the season. Pete, what episode were you watching? You're sitting there, putting on the Disney Plus. You're sitting there just going, "What the hell's going on
out here?" To me, and this is I may get a little backlash from this. I didn't like the whole we need to get R2 storyline. Like Angus, like I need to get him. I forgot to delete his hard drive and stuff like that. I understood the importance of R2, and I understood the importance of the relationship between Anakin and R2. I can't tell if Anakin was lying about that data being saved on the unit to just have to go rescue him instead of just leaving a droid behind, like he was probably supposed to. For some reason, like we didn't need it. I don't think. I mean, yes, it kind of showed like there was a separatist droid that was infiltrating a little bit, but like there was nothing else that came from it. So I was just kind of like, after the fact, it was like, why did we need that? And then also
2 episodes.
2 episodes. So just to add also to this, it's not the episode, it's just the one part. Why in the last episode do they have to be saving Zero the Hutt? Why him? Why couldn't they introduce another character that's going to be a problem later on in the seasons? Why him? If he's the character that's going to be a problem later on in the seasons, I'm going to be upset. I'll be honest with you. I may shut the thing off and say I'm not coming on the podcast anymore. No, but those were the only 2 that I was just like, I'm like, yeah, you had a great episode there, and you had to save Zero the Hutt.
Yeah, I think we found audio of Pete's living room when he was watching that scene. So let's listen to Pete's living room. Why? Yep. Why?
That was me. Yep. My voice got a little higher in that, as you could hear, because I was upset.
Yeah.
But
yeah. The audio connections there was not. I get you. I'm with you in the R2 arc. It was one of my 2 episodes I did not like. Was for me. I also know if you felt this, Nick. Why do we need a traitor droid in the R3 unit? That made no sense to me. And he was just so incompetent. He's like, he was just making it so obvious that if you thought traitor was an option, they're like, yeah, take the droid. He was taking 15, 20 minutes to open a door. The R2 does in 5 seconds.
Yeah, I agree with everything you guys said. The good news is I know for a fact Zero was only in, I believe, 5 episodes total of the whole show.
Perfect.
We're 20% done with Zero.
Yes.
And I think, to be honest, I think 2 of them are only like in the background. So yep. 3 really. So, but I'm with you on the droid trader thing. It's I don't know. It's just like at this point early in the show, really, honestly, until like season 4, a little bit. No, 3 starts picking up, but it's a childish cartoon, and it's just like it's fun. You know what I mean? It's just like a fun, like, oh, the droid's the traitor kind of thing. But I do like when they had the clone, like kind of be like you were talking about earlier, Pete. That clone,
yes,
was like kind of a traitor, because I mean, we all know there's something in those clones that can be activated at any time, and it gets activated in about 2 years from what we're up to now, and they pretty much wipe out the entire galaxy. We all know what I'm talking about. So it's just interesting to see how like some of the clones behave differently than the others, and you'll see when we get into the actuality of Order 66 and the spoiler alert, the chip that's implanted in them for when that goes off. That's very interesting stuff.
Yeah, Nick, what was your least favorite arc of the season?
My least favorite arc was probably the same, Pete said, as the R2 one, but yeah, probably that R2 one in terms of arc. My least favorite episode, honestly, is probably the first episode or the second episode, maybe. Like, they're pretty boring.
You mean the Yoda episode or the one where they're trying to get more than malevolence?
Probably the Yoda episode. It's just a pretty boring episode. It's just like a random battle, and we're still trying to like understand what the show, like, especially because if you've never seen any of the other episodes, you're just like, that's how they're trying to draw us in with the movie, and then this. It's not that much better than the movie, like a little bit maybe. So it's like, I don't know, like it's not that much better than the movie, and you're showing me this now. It's almost like, when are you going to draw me in?
Yeah, I think for me, I agree with you guys. The droid arc made no sense, but the one right after it, because that stretch of episodes was rough. The pirates, I could not stand the pirates. The pirates were annoying as hell. The fact that Dooku gets
I got bad news for you. Yeah, I got bad news for you.
I already know where it's going.
I don't know if you dislike the pirates or if you dislike the specific pirate, but Hondo is a huge character in the Clone Wars and Rebels.
Yeah, the pirate arc made no sense. Like how Dooku gets captured by these guys literally makes no sense at all. And they misplay their hands so badly in the second episode where they could have had like all of these things. And basically they just let their egos get in the way of this. And I just couldn't stand the pirates arc. And
just wanted the spice, bro. They just wanted spices.
Yeah. I mean,
Hondo, the main pirate, appears in 10 Clone Wars episodes and 8 Rebels episodes.
Oh dear God.
Have fun.
Now, I don't think like the other pirates are around and stuff, and it's not like a whole pirate themed thing. But him individually, he's a pretty big character. He's actually at I haven't been there since they opened it, but the Galaxy's Edge thing in Disney, he's there too. I don't know where he is. I haven't been there, but he's in that too. He's actually a pretty beloved character.
Yeah, well, hopefully he gets better after this appearance. I was not a big fan of his first 2 shots on the show.
I could be wrong. I think he might be in Smuggler's Run. When you're walking in
sounds right. I haven't been there, but it sounds right.
And he's like up above you, and he's like salvaging parts and stuff like that. So I believe it's Smuggler's Run, the Millennium Falcon ride in Galaxy.
Yep, I just looked it up. Yep, that's where he is. Smuggler's Run.
1 for 1 on the Disney rides. Here we go.
Yeah. Yeah, so like I'm just hoping that I get better vibes out of Hondo the next couple times he appears, but like that was not a good introduction for me.
I definitely agree that his minions are like the whole pirate thing around him, but him as a character, I enjoy him individually.
Yeah, more like his pirate buddies are morons.
Yeah,
I want to see like I'll keep an eye on him when he pops up again. So we'll see what happens here. Let's go to some character level here. Who is your MVP of the season, Pete?
MVP of the season. It's hard for me. I agree with Nick that I like Anakin Skywalker a lot better. It has to be a tie between Padme and Obi-Wan. And the reason why I say that is because Padme had such a large role, even though she probably wasn't in a lot of episodes. It's just, I don't know. I feel like the really big episode she was involved. Right. So the virus episode, the pandemic episode, which too soon, by the way, all that stuff. I think she was like she was ready to sacrifice herself to like make sure that the whole planet was fine. Like stuff that Jedi Masters are doing. Like to me, that was really impactful for me. But also Obi-Wan is just he's such an amazing character. It's just I can't I don't know how I can stray away from him as well in the season.
Yeah, like he's like cocky, but he also can back it up, which I love with Obi-Wan.
Right.
Yeah,
right.
He's like cocky in a humorous way almost, where he knows he's being humorous. It's like on purpose.
Yeah.
It's like he knows he's basically making fun of the bad guys. He goes along. It's like, yeah, I know 3 steps ahead what your plan's gonna be. I know how I'm gonna counter it, but I'll play along just to make you look stupid. Nick, what about you? Who was your MVP? Was it still Anakin?
So I have 2.
Yeah.
2. So my first one can't really count because of the situation and the circumstance. And it's crazy to say because he was in about 10 minutes. It's Cad Bane. I think he's that cool of a character. I think he is one of the coolest characters this show introduces in general. I think he's awesome. I don't think there's a negative thing you can possibly say about this guy. I would really wish he was in the live action movies. I wish he was in the movie for the Clone Wars. He's a great character. He's the definition of a badass. But I can't really say him because he's only in, let's say, half an episode or a full episode. So I have to go with Anakin. I think I already feel like I'm pretending I never saw season 2 to 7. I'm ready to jump on board with Anakin. I'm ready to say, yeah, he's the hero of the original or the prequel trilogy. And a lot of the story of Star Wars, once it was complete, I know they brought it back, but when it was complete from 1 to 6, the story was
Anakin.
The rise and fall and tragedy of Anakin. Not so much what he did wrong, more as you should feel bad for him. I know he slaughtered a room of innocent children. It's hard to feel bad for that. But when you watch this show, you realize how when he's Darth Vader, he's suffering just as much as anyone that he killed.
Yeah, so we're gonna put right now, Pete. Who was yours again? I'm gonna keep track of these MVP points as we go along here. So
I went Padme and Obi-Wan.
So Padme, one for Padme, one for Obi-Wan. Nick, we're giving a half to Cad Bane and one to Anakin.
Well, is he getting half and halves on Obi-Wan and Padme, or is he getting full points there?
You can do half because I got 2. It should be half.
Yeah.
So you're gonna do it. So I'll give a half to Anakin, give him a full point. I think he is an MVP worthy character because he's the one you see the most out of the season, and you understand he's not just a whiny child. He actually is a competent Jedi. He knows his stuff and he can do things and he comes with a great plan. So it's a good season for Anakin. I'll give my other half to Jar Jar, believe it or not, because Jar Jar, I think the character is just so funny this season.
I freaking knew it. Of course you want Jar Jar.
He fits well in a cartoon. He didn't fit well in
it's not the cartoon. He's actually effective in his appearances too. I mean, the plot, I know he's bumbling and stumbling around a couple of times, but he does get the job done. I mean, he does do a good job faking out as a Jedi to save this. And then when the other senator dies on the ice planet, he's leading the charge. So great job, Jar Jar.
I'm with you. I completely agree, especially what you said with Anakin.
Yeah, I think that's a good list here. So we're going to keep track of this as we go here. So Anakin's on the board leading here. Then we have a half-point tie for Padme, Obi-Wan, Cad Bane, and Jar Jar.
Woo! Yeah, and another thing to add about Anakin is, you're starting to see it a little bit how you watch, let's say, the first movie, A New Hope, and you're watching Obi-Wan tell Luke about his father, and you're saying he was the best starfighter in the galaxy, he was a cunning warrior, he was a good friend, and then you watch the prequels, and you're like, really? Was he that good of a friend? When I'm watching this guy, he's whining the whole time and yelling at you and saying he's holding me back and throwing stuff in the other room, is he really that good of a friend? But then you see the show and you're like, oh, I can see that. I can see why he says that about him.
Yeah, the better writing also, I think, here is significantly better in the cartoon than he got in the movie.
Can I jump in here really quickly with something random? Nick, I want to know if you see this too. Do we see a little bit of Anakin and Ahsoka? I feel like Ahsoka is kind of like the Padawan that Anakin was to Obi-Wan, you're holding me back. I know what I'm doing. And then when responsibility hits, she's like, oh no, I don't want to do that. I don't know what to, it might be an age thing when it comes to any Padawan, but she almost has that kind of same mentality of I can handle it. I know what I'm doing, even though she's just a Padawan, just like Anakin did.
I see it. I don't know if it's supposed to be because Anakin was like that, she's like that, but I can tell you for sure they make her like that on purpose because of how she grows. When you see her in later seasons, first of all, they change her model, so she'll look a little bit different.
Right.
In Rebels, she'll look a little bit different. Obviously, that's I don't know how many years down the road, 17. And then you see her again in Mandalorian, and basically you see her become how old do you think she is? 14.
Yeah, at this point, yeah.
I think, I guess, yeah. See her from I'm sure I can look up the exact age, but she's a 14-year-old girl. A whiny, immature girl to becoming, let's say, if I'm just quick math, 40 or so in the Mandalorian to a 40-year-old strong, I don't want to say the cliche, but strong, independent woman. And she is. You're gonna these cartoons, as much as Rebels isn't really about Ahsoka, you kind of just witness the growth of a character in front of your eyes.
Yeah. Okay, so that's our MVPs. We'll go the other direction. We'll go with the LVPs. Nick, who was the worst character of the season?
Zero.
For his
Zero. If I see Zero's face, he wins the award.
Yeah. I think I'm with Nick on that 110%.
I really, honestly, though, there's no other character that I had any problem with except, is there any character that you guys felt like besides Zero? Like, I know Phil, I know Mike, you Hondo was your enemy there, but I don't see any other character that I dislike in the show. Like all the Jedi, Jar Jar, the droids, they're all fine to me.
I took it in terms of like a bit of an action take. So I'm like, who is actively not like helping as much of the storyline? I docked the point off of Padme P. I know you're not going to like that. Oh. Like, I mean, is there an episode she shows up but she's not captured in?
Yeah, but that's the whole point.
She's like Princess Peach. They have to get her captured so Mario can get her.
Yeah, but this is like if Peach was like, nah, I'm willing to die for the planet. Yeah. Like, yeah, let's do it. Like, I don't care if Bowser's gonna, let's do it. Like, you leave Padme alone.
Yeah, but like that for me, that just loses points because like, especially where we're trying to sell this narrative, like Padme is this great strategist and like she's a great leader. Like every time she shows up, she's getting captured by somebody.
We'll see if it continues.
Yeah, we will have to see if it continues, but I'm putting Padme on the LVP board, and Zero is just for me, it's too easy now because like he's in there for about 5 seconds. And
I don't care.
Whiny.
You want to tell me right now with a straight face that Padme is a worse character than Zero the Hutt?
No, I said she had a worse season than Zero the Hutt.
Just tell me the tell me the truth.
No, that's like Zero's on his own level of bad.
The first time I had seen the Clone Wars movie, I was in and out. I fell asleep a little bit, whatever. I didn't, I had no idea Zero was a guy. I had no idea. It doesn't sound like a guy. I don't understand. Like, I don't see, I think it's, I don't know. It just seems like it was a woman to me. I don't really understand who relates to that character. Like, who looks at, there can't be. I mean, I'm sure there's somebody in the world, but there can't be somebody who has a similar podcast called like The Sky Woman or whatever it may be, or and they talk about this. Who was your MVP? And they say Zero. There can't be. Can't be.
No, he's an abomination of a character.
Yep.
And we'll wrap up some business here as we go along here. We'll also do season ranking. So right now, 1 of 1. We've seen one of the season. It's number 1.
Yeah, I'll put it above the movie. I'll put it above the movie.
Yeah.
Yeah, the movie is dead last right now. And we'll put season 1 number 1.
I have a feeling this is literally just going to go higher as you go.
Yeah.
Maybe like you might put like 5 above 6. That's about it. It's probably going to go 1, 2, 3, 5.
It's going to be an easy ranking then for us.
Yeah, it probably is. We'll see though.
We'll see though. And we'll be back in about a month. We're going to do a couple of weeks. We'll do season 2, Rise of the Bounty Hunters. Nick, as somebody who's seen that, what are you looking forward to here?
Looking forward to seeing a little bit of Boba Fett.
Young Boba Fett.
Yeah, last time we saw Boba, chronologically speaking, he was holding the helmet of his dead father.
Right.
So he's, I would say, if I was Boba Fett. Now, no spoiler here. We all know because I'm sure even if you haven't seen the show, you guys know, Darth Maul is not dead after episode 1.
And I mean, he's in Solo.
He's in a lot of stuff. He's in Solo. Right. He's in both the cartoon shows. We'll get to that, but his main thing, Darth Maul, is I hate Obi-Wan Kenobi because Obi-Wan killed him, right?
Yeah.
So if you're Boba Fett, who do you hate?
Mace Windu.
Boba Fett hates Mace Windu, and we're going to see a little bit of the banter between the two of them.
So we're getting more Mace Windu this season.
Yeah.
All right, that makes me happy.
We are. I'll be honest with you though, I don't know if we're getting. I don't remember if you're getting more than 1 episode in that, but I'm looking forward to. We're going to get a little bit, and this is important because the whole reason we started this little segment on the podcast was Mandalorian. We're getting a little bit of Mandalore next season.
Oh, that's gonna be exciting.
We're not getting Bo-Katan yet, but we're getting Mandalore in general.
That's exciting development, Pete.
I'm if it's just gonna be up from here, like I don't know how else I can contain my excitement. I just you better take that Padme stuff back next season.
Well, we'll see if she stays in the bottom of the LVP rankings here. She's 1 above 0.
We should do a counter. We should do how John Wick has a counter on the bottom of the screen about how many people he kills in the movie. We should have a counter of how many times Padme gets captured in a season.
Yeah.
And just like the counter.
How many is it so far? 2 or 3?
I think it's 3 at least.
3.
Yeah, we'll keep that. We'll keep that as a
we'll keep the counter going.
We'll get the numbers.
The running tracker of how many times Padme gets captured. And we'll do that track. We'll also track how many times Zero appears and how many appearances we're at.
Yeah.
We'll do a Zero track. We'll do a Hondo tracker. Just don't know me.
Do a Hondo for you. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'll keep all those things will be in the databases. I'll put them in the show notes. So that's a wrap on season 1 of Clone Wars. A lot of fun, guys. Thanks for all the time. Really appreciate it.
Before we wrap up, there was some news announced today, the day we're recording this, which is on February 4th, that the successor to this show, The Bad Batch, is going to be premiering this spring.
Wow. Wow.
So
Quick.
We won't be able to finish this before you can watch that. But if you want to maybe after we're finished, go and review some of that, I'm always in.
Yeah, so that's something we keep an eye on. Maybe some bonus coverage down the line.
Yeah.
Yeah, because that might be one I feel like if Disney Plus keeps going on the weekly track here, maybe, after the season's over, like I will say, we watched all the episodes. Here we are.
Yeah, I'll be watching them all.
Yeah, because I know the Bad Batch. I know the episode, I think, doesn't drop until season 7 of Clone Wars. Am I correct?
Yeah, there's an arc. It's the first arc of season 7. I believe it's a 4-episode arc.
Yeah, so maybe after we finish season 7, we'll quickly dive into the Bad Batch because that'll be fresh in our minds.
We can do that and then head into Rebels after that.
Yeah. Plus, we're also talking off the air. Maybe at some point here, do some movie rankings. I feel like this is gonna be a fun debate between the three of us. I feel like we have some different opinions for the.
we can get into the debate a little bit later, but I have my list in front of me already. I can just share it real quick.
Why don't we say that for the future?
You sure?
Yes, we'll do a full episode. We'll do a full bit on that.
Suspense, Nick. We want the suspense.
Yeah,
that's sure you don't want to see it so you can think about it, so you can create some counter arguments.
No, we'll save that. We'll keep us in suspense.
Good on the fly, I think. I think we're pretty good on the fly off the cuff here.
I have a vision for that. So you have your list. We'll put ours together. That'll be something else in the future. Before I let you guys go, we will follow on social media. Some of the stuff you're up to. Pete, you first.
Yeah. So Twitter at PJ Consadori 29. Just a bunch of hockey stuff, Star Wars stuff. You know where to find me there.
Yeah, and once again, Nick, not a big Twitter guy, but leave your handles in the comments here. Leave it on the YouTube video. He'll follow you if you want to be kept. If you want to keep up what's going on, right, Nick?
My Twitter is NickFry_9, but don't follow it. It'll follow you.
Yeah, so NickFry9 will be following you if you want the extra follow. All right, guys. Thanks again. I really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Yep. Take care, Mike.